Couple of more Sundays until we get some Dolphins early September. They're going to start practice and training camp soon enough. What will this Dolphins team look like going into the season? Better question is what it's going to look like at the end of the season. But some people are speculating that the Dolphins could make some drastic and crazy changes. So I'm going to walk you through some of this right now. And we're just going to kind of take a look and see if anything possibly could happen that would totally blow our minds. Yahoo Sports recently wrote an article stating that the Athletics, Jim Aiello, painted a scenario, although unlikely, but not impossible, where the Dolphins could be without Tua Tagovailoa. And I'll read. There's a world where this is Tua Tagovailoa's final season in Miami. To be clear, the odds of the Dolphins moving on after this season are remote, far likely in 2026, but it's maybe not as crazy as you think. Imagine if the up against the cap Dolphins struggle to a 5 or 6 win 2025 season. Ownership decides it's time for a hard reset. New general manager, new coach. They didn't see Tua Tagovailoa fitting in, his concussion history, limitations, pocket passer as franchise quarterback. They decide to draft a quarterback and look to trade Tua Tagovailoa to a QB needy team. So what they would do is trade him to a QB needy team, and then all of a sudden things would get crazy. They would save a ton of money. They would start over. And this is where it really gets crazy. If the Dolphins fall flat, fresh start for the quarterback, added they could cut Tua Tagovailoa after the season, would come to a massive $79 million dead cap hit. It wouldn't set an NFL record. It wouldn't set the NFL record, meaning even the contract would be enough guaranteed security, but it would in the end save them money. There's just not a way I see Tua Tagovailoa getting cut or traded, but Vlad, we live in a strange world.
I mean, I really don't see it, but if a certain someone gets fired.
Exactly. And they want to stay. It does make sense. If you get a new general manager and a new coach, they're probably not going to want to work with Tua Tagovailoa.
It all depends on how the season, obviously how the season fares. But if Coach McDaniel gets let go, I don't think unless the next head coach comes in and is a Tua supporter or a Tua fan, then like you said, anything's up in the air. But health also will come into play as well. If he does get banged up another year, I could see where they might be, they might want to say, hey, you know what? We've tried. It's been 5 years, 6 years now. What's his 6th season going? We're going to the 6th season, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
do you want to, this is the first year of the extension. So the extension kicks in, that 5-year extension kicks in now. So you're trying to get out of it early. If everything goes left, I can see that. But as long as Mike McDaniel's the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, Tua is going to be your quarterback. Because remember, he's the one that went up, right? Remember you said, remember you giving the reports of he's the one that went up to Stephen Ross and says, pay that man the money when everything was happening last year.
Man, a worst case scenario would be Tua gets knocked out of a game early in the season, has bad concussion problems, can't really play. The team falls apart, comes back, gets injured again, some way, shape, or form. And you know what? They clear out everybody. Tua can't even really get that much trade value because of the injury. And the Dolphins would have to do what they're talking about here. This is just an extreme case where they might, and once again, this would be worst case scenario with a lot of injury problems and with a terrible team that this season, $79 million dead cap hit if they would cut him, because there would be no other way to go with all the new guys. Whew. What about Tyreek Hill? Is there any way Tyreek Hill isn't on this team? A lot of people are wondering. Chris Perkins writes an article, and we like Chris Perkins over there at the Sun Sentinel.
CP.
Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill, a likely future Hall of Fame selection, I would say yes, will cost the Dolphins $51.8 million on the salary cap in 2026. You can be fairly sure Hill, a 5-time All-Pro and 8-time Pro Bowl selection, won't be playing for the Dolphins at that price. The Dolphins will either release Hill or amend his contract to lower the cap hit, or they could trade him this year before the November trade deadline, depending on how the season goes. But as the Dolphins seem to be moving forward, trying to win with youth and draftees and being more fiscally responsible, you wonder where that leaves Hill's future with the team. Let me give you some scenarios. If they cut Hill, once again, cut Tyreek Hill June 1st, 2026, it would cost them $15.5 million in dead money, but save them $36.3 million against the cap. If they designate Hill as a post June 1st cut, it would cost them $12.7 million in dead money, but it would save them $39.1 million against the cap. Hill, however, is essential personnel. Once again, Vlad, doomsday scenario, things start getting really bad. Could you believe cutting Tyreek Hill?
If he's just a detriment to the locker room, I could see that.
Doomsday scenario, this team starts off really bad and the season starts going. Could you see trading Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, because he or his agent will probably start the discussion about wanting to be traded. He'll say things, you know what I'm saying? Like he'll say things. Sometimes, like our guy Tobin says, you know, sometimes you got to make a stink. And I think Tyreek Hill can make a stink to the point where if he sees another season of him not making the playoffs, that's the other thing. Like, as much as we want to say, and I'm the one that said, I'm one of the people that lead it. As much as we want to say he's a headache, because he is a competitor, and he's a true competitor. And it hurt him last season not being able to be in the postseason competing for a title, and he's seen his former team, since his departure, just
get better,
win 2 titles, and then get to another Super Bowl. So that's 3 Super Bowls that he's missed.
If things start going south, and like I say, Tyreek Hill feels as though he's being underused and underappreciated, I could see him making a stink and saying, this season is done, this team is done. I see the writing on the wall. Get me out of here.
Everybody's on the foreman right now. Everybody's nervous because of the way 8 and 9.
Get me out of here.
8 and 9 tasted last season.
And do you think there's anybody in this world that doesn't think Tyreek Hill is capable of putting up a stink and trying to get out of here?
Right. But he's going to do everything in his power. But he's not. He's also going to do everything in his power to make sure the Dolphins are capable of being successful.
I understand that.
That's the thing.
But if he feels underutilized?
But like you say, we have to see. Like, we're just speculating, but if you underutilize, if you're getting 9 receptions, if you're averaging 9 receptions a game, over 100 yards, you're getting a touchdown, but you're still losing.
That's even more interesting.
That's not being underutilized. It's just that you're losing. That's everything. Listen, bro, everything falls on the coach this year. Like, everything falls on him.
I mean, the players need to play. They need to show up. They
right,
need to work hard.
But listen, everything you just said, they can all perform well, and if they lose, it still falls on the head coach.
The blame falls on the coach and the quarterback in this league, and that's just the way it is, man. How some other things could change for the Miami Dolphins. A lot of people like Brian Miller over there at Fin Fanatics saying this could most likely be the last year for defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver.
Wow, they think he might be a candidate for head coaching vacancies in 2026.
Here's the article. To put it simply, this season is almost a win-win for Weaver.
I think so.
If he turns his defensive unit into a top 10 defense, and we know they're a little undermanned right now.
They were top 10. They were, what were they, like top 12 last season?
No, they were probably like top 8. They were like the 8th best defense.
Okay.
But if he turns them around again, not turns them around, but gets these guys to a top 10 defense, he'll be a hot candidate for another coaching job, perhaps even a head coaching job. Weaver is designing his defense to get consistent and constant pressure on the quarterbacks, all while also stopping the run. The hope is that the cornerbacks won't be left in coverage for very long. I think we're all hoping for that.
They might see another D'Amico Ryans in Anthony Weaver.
What's going on over there in Houston?
Yes.
Yeah. So it kind of seems like, so if they do good, I mean, look what he did. Look what he did with those guys 2 years in a row. He's made them a top 10 defense. Of course, if they don't do that good, you could say, well, look what he had to work with. You know, he didn't have the best secondary. He didn't have all of his players. He didn't have a lot of talent.
Well, that's the thing. You're right. You're right. He is in a great
spot.
Because if he somehow turns this around and has another top 10 defense, like you said,
then he can work magic.
They think, okay, he can work. Yeah, he can make chicken salad out of right. But if it doesn't work out, everything falls, like I said, on the head coach. It'll be on the head coach and the general manager for not giving him the proper assets for him to work with.
And there's one more scenario which we hope doesn't happen, but once again, we got to do the nuclear setting. If things just go absolutely south and they fire Mike McDaniel midseason, there's no one better to be the interim coach than Anthony Weaver.
Yeah, that's what we said.
And that's what they're saying. He could be around for a while if that were to happen. If he were to get the interim coach job, do a good job as the interim coach, maybe they would make him the full-time head coach. And that would actually be exactly what most NFL teams do. When they fire one coach, they try to hire somewhat of an opposite type of coach. Mike McDaniel, very friendly, very nice, very offensive-minded. Anthony Weaver, although well-liked, maybe a little bit more of a disciplinarian and defensive-minded. That would be the type of quote-unquote 180 you'd be looking for, the symmetry you'd be looking for. Plus, you'd get a guy that kind of knows the organization, that has done well. So Anthony Weaver's in a good spot. I believe he's a great coach. Obviously, look what he did last year with the defense. Hopefully this year he can work that magic again. And, of course, we always got to address Zach Sealer, who – anonymous, we love anonymous NFL executives and coordinators were ranking their best defensive linemen. Zach Sealer got honorable mention, and it said he's probably getting more credit for his 2024 performance because Christian Wilkins wasn't there. He worked himself into an all-pro caliber player. You know, Drew Rosenhaus likes that. Tough, smart, dependable, ultimate team guy from an NFL coordinator. And he's in a contract. Not when I say he's in a contract year, last year of his contract.
I mean, he's in a contract year. Yeah.
And, you know, I say Zach Sealer's that type of guy that just, you know, he goes out there and is going, I'm going to earn my money this year. But at the same time, you gotta protect yourself. And, you know, a lot of people are predicting he's going to sit in practices and they're going to find a way to either get him paid or they're going to find a way to Christian Wilkins him and say, go out there and earn it. And after that, you don't know. I mean, is Zach Sealer pretty much in a similar situation to Christian Wilkins?
Yes, that's why we expect
them to say go out there and earn it?
No, we expect not
going to make the same mistake.
No, he's gonna come into camp but not practice.
But remember Christian Wilkins?
What's that called?
Sit in.
Yeah,
it's called a sit in.
Sit in.
But
yeah.
Remember Christian Wilkins was kind of in the same situation, and he said, like, you know, give me an extension.
What'd he do?
And they said, no, go out there and play and earn it. And he earned it.
No, he sat in. They waited till the last week. They gave him a little raise. They told him to go earn it. He went out and earned it. And now he's in Vegas.
So will they approach the Zach Sealer situation like that again? Or they might say, we don't want to love this guy. Let's not make that same.
They probably going to do the same situation because here's the difference between the Zach situation and Christian. Christian's way younger than Zach.
Yes, that is also true.
So,
and another reason you might think that they would be approaching it that way with the more prudent way is, like Chris Perkins said, they've kind of made a commitment this offseason to not just opening up the credit card and giving money to people.
Right. But they did that last year. For this year, for those people that got paid to live up to their contracts, to their payment. So if you take a look back and you look at everything, all the money for this year was paid last year.
Yes. This is the year.
And so, but what happened was the guys that you might have wanted to bring back, they played so well.
But the money's not there.
The money's not there. And unfortunately, they were also they were pretty much the leaders of your team.
Right.
Instead of being like real contributors to your team, they ended up being the leaders of your team. And then now the leaders of your team are gone. And you're questioning who's running this team because all of a sudden, no leadership, nobody respects the coach, this, that, and the other started coming out. And then now you're in a situation, right, where we at on July 13th? Training camp's about to open in less than 5-6 days.
Mm-hmm. It's good. Or next week's not you know what I mean. I think it's like on the 23rd or something like
that.
Okay,
so we're in 10 days within training camp beginning. Questions on the defense, questions on the offensive line, and everybody's always going to bring what you like to say the boring narratives, but it's a fact. You know, how healthy will Tua be?
No. Once again, if Tua gets hurt in, let's just say week 1 against the Colts, and he's on the injured reserve, and this team goes on a losing streak to begin the season, I hate to even see what this team is going to look like, or even have to see what this is going to be like. We're going to think positive things, man. Week 1, Indianapolis Colts, maybe we'll be facing Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson. They probably can't figure it out, and we'll be okay.